So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the independent commission formed as Brexit isn't working. So I think this is probably trying to be similar to the independent commission they made regarding COVID. So I wasn't going to cover this originally, but then I read through the article and I was like, it's semi-interesting. So I thought maybe some people in the audience might like it. So business people, academics, journalists, and the top trade unionists have formed a group with the purpose of repairing fractured UK-EU relations. And it's really interesting, you've got business people and a top trade unionist in the same group. Normally they don't really like each other, and realistically they shouldn't. Trade unionists should never really get along with business owners. They're diametrically opposed to each other, if you believe Marx. Under the banner of Brexit isn't working, a group of business people, which mentioned all these groups, joined forces to form a commission of inquiry aimed at finding solutions to repair the fractured UK-EU relationship. Well, if they can figure out a problem to stop Boris complaining about the Northern Ireland Protocol, then on to a winner. The Commission on UK-EU relations will take evidence from experts and publish its findings ahead of the planned renegotiation of the Brexit trade and cooperation deal with the EU in 2024. So they've got a couple of years to really think about what they want to do and say when the time comes for renegotiation. Members stress that the idea is to generate a more informed, not to refight the 2016 Brexit referendum campaign or reopen the question of the UK membership of the EU, which, we're not doing too great without them, but they seem to be fine without us. Mike Clancy, co-chair and general secretary of Prospect Trade Union, said the entire services sector, including financial services, which employs 3 million people across the UK, effectively received a no-deal Brexit. Now, there is some equivalency deal that's temporary until 2022, but for the most part, the service sector is very frustrated that they were not included in any part of the TCA, hence why some have left, others are mulling it over. There is people are like, I'm surprised more haven't left yet. But to be fair, once those equivalency deals end in 2022, then we'll see what's left of kind of the clearinghouses and the other stuff that have equivalency temporarily. He added, beyond the economy, there are unresolved issues in defence, police cooperation, and the outcome for Northern Ireland. The Commission is necessary for us to understand exactly what has been broken and to propose viable solutions. Now, in terms of defence and police cooperation, that would mean us potentially having access to more things like certain EU databases, which we're never going to get access to. And the outcome for Northern Ireland, unless you're proposing rejoining the single market and the customs union, the Northern Ireland Protocol is here to stay, unless those two things are gone. So again, I don't know what kind of solutions these guys are going to offer. On a personal note, I have agreed to be a member of the Commission because of my commitment to cooperation rather than engaging in a permanent state of hostilities with neighbours, as currently appears to be the case with Boris Johnson. The Commission will be chaired jointly by Clancy, General Secretary of Prospect Trade Union and member of the TUC General Council. So again, it's interesting that they've got a member of a trade union in this. And Janice Hughes, co-founder and director of Graphite Strategy, dedicated to full fibre 5G rollout and green energy investment. So again, a very odd group of people. Someone who's interested in green energy, full fibre and 5G. I mean, how much input are they gonna have into kind of post-EU trade negotiations? I'm not 100% sure on that one. Maybe with the green investments and stuff about the 5G rollout, but the full fibre has nothing to do with our membership of the EU or Brexit, so it's a very strange person to have in here. Other Commission members include Lord Kerr, former head of the Foreign Office and ambassador to the EU during the Maastricht Treaty negotiations, Will Hutton, observer commentator, I think we might have covered some stuff from him, not sure, and the best-selling author, Peter Kellner, pollster and commentator. He'd be a good pick if he's any good at polling, because that can generally give you the mood of the public and what kind of sways it. George Peretz, QC, law person, great. Paula Sturridge, a professor of sociology and international studies at the University of Bristol, having someone who understands people's minds. It's a good pick. Anna Jo Ozeska, nothing really needs to be said about her, founder of the Trade and Borders, a person I follow avidly on Twitter, who gives out a lot of great information. And CEO of Argus Media. Adrian Binks, CEO of Argus Media. Again, very strange group of people. Apart from the doc and the pollster, the QC, the observer commentator, and Lord Kerr, and the sociologist, some of these people are a bit of a strange pick, the CEO of Argus being one of them, media. So it does tell me that they are going to go on a bit of a social media spree close to 2024 in order to try and push the government to do something. That's my interpretation of it. Starting in the new year, the Commission will take evidence from experts on a variety of issues covering immigration, with the labour market, defence, as well as trade and standards arising from the government's decision to leave the EU single market and customs union. That's where they could, really look at kind of the deregulation proposals and talk about the implications they would have on trade between the UK and the EU. Abandoning the single market has created serious friction for British companies, particularly small and medium enterprises less able to cope with the extra costs than the bigger corporations who can set up things like warehouses in the EU. But let's also remember that a lot of SMEs are thinking about leaving the UK for the EU or setting up subsidiaries within the EU because their trade is absolutely knackered. As illustrated in the recent Channel 4 Dispatches programme, the disruption has affected Welsh fish exporters, Scottish gin makers, importers of Chinese tech accessories, and the presenter's own national leather import-export leather jacket shop. So I guess these are just people who are directly impacted by Brexit. That's why some of these people were picked. There is also evidence of damage to the City of London, not the much touted exodus, which I think most people thought would happen. I thought it would happen. Of thousands of jobs promoted by the Treasury and the Remain campaign in the run-up to the 2016, but more a slow puncture. More and more people thinking about leaving London. I think they're just waiting for the outcome of that 2022 equivalency kind of thing. Rather than adding to the existing headcount in London, new jobs are being located in Amsterdam, Dublin, Frankfurt and Paris, where pan-European financial services business wants seamless access to the single market. So it might not be the fact that a lot of companies are going to leave, but I think they're going to move their investments into the EU, and a lot of newer companies are going to set up shop in the EU rather than the UK, or GB should I say. The standoff between the Johnson government and the European Commission, as well as tensions with other EU member states, notably France, has created a breakdown of trust on all sides. In these circumstances, the Commission believes that a fact-based gathering of evidence can lead to practical solutions. The problem is, a lot of people in this country don't want to listen to facts. If they did, we wouldn't be in this mess. So the kind of things that they're saying here, I'm not 100% sure about. I support their efforts, as long as they're not looking to kind of just crowdfund and kind of grift. I think they could do something good here. The problem is this Tory government will not allow them to make any progress on anything. And if the Tories are still in charge when this renegotiation happens, it's going to be worse potentially than the TCA. The Brexit divorce has been a long and painful process, as divorces typically are. Many long-time EU observers argue that the UK-EU relations will get worse before they get better. I mean, probably won't get much worse than this, depending on how the situation in France will get, because the UK have already backed off using Article 16, which tells me that the UK are probably closer to accepting the new EU proposals regarding the Northern Ireland Protocol. The stuff around fishing is going to be the next flashpoint, I believe. So we'll see what happens with that. But I don't think they're going to get much worse than they are now, but those are famous last words. The opposition, Labour, have begun to address the flaws in Johnson's Brexit deal. Not really. I'd say not at all. Starmer is wary of inflaming old wounds from the referendum, but he could easily flag this as a Tory Brexit. He could talk about how people like Daniel Hannan promised we wouldn't leave the single market, things like that. Absolutely no one is threatening our place in the single market. There was that other guy, I think it was Owen Paterson, who said only a madman would leave the single market. So again, if Labour actually used these clips and said, look, this is not the Brexit that was promised, we can make it better, we can fix a lot of the issues that we have, that would be the way to go for Labour. Labour's leader recently told the CBI conference the government thinks that all it has to do is say the words "get Brexit done." Is absolutely no plan to make Brexit work. Again, it's a risky move because you are going to isolate Europhiles, but what I'd say to those Europhiles are we are looking at closer alignment with the EU and equivalency agreements, which may not be feasible, but if you go with that kind of angle and say, look, we're not planning on rejoining the EU, and even if we did, it's not necessarily true that EU want to accept us back. We have to show that we can be good members and play by the rules. So if you want to rejoin the EU at some point, we're the party to vote for, because even the Lib Dems have kind of backed away from the EU a fair bit. They say it's obvious that a poorly thought through Brexit is holding back. Britain, which is true. Labour, he said, would seek regulatory equivalence for financial services, which is good, and mutual recognition of professional qualifications. Again, this is good stuff here, stuff the Tories failed to get. We would seek to maintain Britain's data adequacy status, something that Lord Frost is potentially looking to deregulate, making our data protection rules equivalent to those in the EU. I would say, if I was going to frame it, I would say I want to make our data equivalency rules the best in the world. Data rules the best in the world to secure UK digital service companies' competitiveness. So again, this is good stuff here. The only issue I have is these guys, they're gonna appeal a lot to someone like myself and the FPPB crowd, whatever the hell they're called, and Europhiles and stuff like that. But I don't think they're going to make that much of an impact from a governmental perspective. But no doubt they will come out with some interesting findings and ideas, which is stuff that I'm going to probably cover closer to the time when they start releasing stuff. The fact that they've got someone like Dr. Anna Joanzeska gives me a lot of faith in this group, because she's an expert in trade, coupled with a couple other people, Lord Kerr, who has been pretty critical of the government. A lot of the names I'm not super familiar with, but it looks like they've got a decent group of people, semi-random, some of them. But we'll see close to the time what happens with this one. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.